My wife cheated on me with my best friend, then forged my signature to sell our family house for $300, $0. Now she's claiming sole ownership after hiding the affair with a lawyer I found through a suspicious Instagram ad. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating on him, especially not with my best friend. But life has a way of throwing the most unexpected punches when you're least prepared. It all started with little things, small signs that I brushed off at first, thinking maybe I was just overthinking or being paranoid. But then, suddenly, everything exploded in my face, and I realized I was living with a betrayal I never imagined possible. Her name was Emily, and she was the kind of woman who always seemed perfect on the surface, pretty, sharp, good at hiding her true feelings. We'd been married for 7 years, and honestly, I thought we had a good life. We had a nice house, decent jobs, 2 kids I adored. But in the last few months, I'd noticed her becoming more distant. She'd start working late without explanation, cancel plans with friends, and I'd catch her sneaking around her phone more than usual. She'd hide her screen when I entered the room, and her excuses for being busy or tired started to feel hollow. Then came the night I found the text messages. I was snooping, stupid, I know, but I'd been suspicious for weeks. I couldn't help myself. I'd seen her phone on the kitchen table unlocked and I couldn't resist. The messages weren't just innocent flirtation, they were explicit. My wife Emily was having sex with my best friend Jake. I saw the texts where they talked about sneaking away for secret trips, about how good they made each other feel, how they couldn't keep their hands off each other. My stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut and I couldn't breathe. I stared at the screen in disbelief. How could this happen? How could Emily do this with Jake, who I'd trusted more than anyone? I kept reading, trying to convince myself it was some sick joke or a mistake, but every word confirmed what I already knew deep down. They had been seeing each other behind my back for months, maybe longer. And the worst part, Emily was so damn manipulative about it. She lied, insisted she was just friends with him, that I was overreacting, that I was paranoid. But I had proof now, and there was no denying it. I didn't confront her that night. I just sat in the dark, trembling, trying to process the betrayal. I felt so stupid for trusting her, so naive for not seeing the signs earlier. I kept asking myself how I missed everything, how the woman I loved could do this to me with my own best friend. It was like a gut punch every time I thought about how she'd lied to me, how she'd been sleeping with Jake, and all the while I had been oblivious or maybe just too blind to see. The next day, I started digging deeper. I needed answers, but I also needed to figure out what to do. I knew I couldn't stay in that house, in that marriage, without confronting her. I started looking for more evidence, checking her phone again, her emails, even her bank accounts. That's when I found the second shocker. She had forged my signature to sell our family house. Not just that, she managed to sell it for $300, $0, and I had no idea. She kept all the money, claiming it was for some emergencies, but I knew better. The house was ours, paid off, and I had every right to know what was going on. Seeing that she had taken our life savings, lied about the sale, and then claimed sole ownership of the house, it was like a slap in the face. That house was our family's legacy, and now she was trying to erase me from it. I felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and helplessness. How could she do this? How could she betray me so thoroughly? Sex, lies, theft, everything all at once. I was furious, but I also felt crushed. I didn't know how to breathe, how to face my kids, or even how to look at myself in the mirror after discovering all this. That's when I realized I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with it. I started planning my next move, knowing that I had to be smart, careful. I didn't want to just yell or storm out. I needed to regain control, find out how deep this conspiracy ran, and most importantly, make her pay for what she'd done. I knew this was only the beginning, but I had no idea how much more was waiting to come out. After I uncovered everything, the affair, the forged signature, the house sale, my mind was racing. I wasn't just angry, I was furious. How could she do this? How could Emily, the woman I married, who once seemed so loving and dependable, turn into someone capable of betraying me so completely? I couldn't sleep that night. My thoughts kept circling around, trying to find a way to fix this, to get justice, or at least some clarity. The first thing I did was gather all the evidence I could find. I printed out her text messages, saved the emails, and took screenshots of her social media conversations. I even hired a private investigator. I knew Emily was sneaky, and I didn't want to miss anything. The Pies report confirmed what I already suspected. She'd been meeting Jake in secret, staying out late, and even had a secret apartment she'd been using for their rendezvous. It was all coming apart at the seams. But what really set me off was the bank statements. I finally got access to her accounts, and I saw the sale of the house in the records. The $300, $0 was transferred into an account I didn't recognize. That's when I realized she'd been planning this for a while, probably since the day she decided to cheat. She'd lied, manipulated, and stolen from me, all while pretending to be the perfect wife. I felt betrayed on every level, emotionally, financially, and morally. I decided I needed to confront her. I scheduled a meeting at her office, knowing she'd be there. When I arrived, she was surprised to see me, her face twisting into a fake smile. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sweet but with a dangerous edge. "I found out everything," I said coldly. "The affair, the house sale, the forged signature. I know you've been lying to me for months, Emily. I want the truth now. How long have you been sleeping with Jake? How much money did you steal from us?" She looked stunned. For a second, then quickly recovered. "You're overreacting," she said, blinking rapidly. "You're paranoid. Jake and I are just friends. The house sale was a mistake, a misunderstanding. I was trying to protect you, protect the family. Protect us by selling our house behind my back, stealing $300, $0. I shot back. "Are you serious? You forged my signature, Emily. That's criminal. Do you even realize how much trouble you're in?" Her eyes flashed with anger. "You don't understand the pressure I was under. I did what I had to do. You were never around, always working or out with your friends. I needed to take control of my life. And Jake, he's been there for me. Maybe you should thank him, since he's been the only one who truly cares about me." I felt like I'd been punched again. Her words were so cold, so calculated. She was spinning a web of lies, trying to turn everything around. I could see her trying to manipulate me, gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. But I knew the truth, and I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. Over the next few days, I went through a whirlwind of emotions. First shock, then rage, then despair. I couldn't believe the woman I married had become this person, so deceitful, so selfish. I started questioning everything about our life together. Was I blind? Did I miss the signs? How could I have trusted her with my heart, my money, my future? At the same time, I was planning my next steps. I realized I needed legal help, and fast. I contacted a lawyer specialized in family law and financial disputes. I wanted to understand my rights about the house, the money, and how to deal with Emily's manipulations. I knew she'd fight dirty, so I had to be prepared. My lawyer told me to gather all evidence, document everything, and be ready for a long battle. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her act, pretending to be the victim. She claimed I was overreacting, that I was paranoid and jealous. She even tried to turn the kids against me, saying I was crazy and possessive. I saw through her, but it hurt. She was using her charm, her bitchy attitude, to spin the story in her favor. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I refused to let her win. One day she confronted me in tears, saying she was sorry but had no choice, that she needed the money to get her life back on track. I looked at her and knew she was lying. The truth was obvious now. She'd been planning this betrayal for months, maybe longer. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone cold and calculating. I realized I had to take back control, stand up for myself, and protect what was left of my dignity and my family's future. The legal route was complicated, but I knew I had to move fast. Emily's story kept changing, her excuses getting more elaborate, but I wasn't buying any of it. I had the evidence, her texts, the bank statements, the forged signature, and that was enough to start building my case. I met with the lawyer I found through that suspicious Instagram ad, the one who seemed a little shady but knew his stuff. Honestly, he was the only person I could trust at that point, and even that trust was fragile. We drafted the initial paperwork to freeze the sale of the house and to investigate the transfer of funds. I filed for an emergency court order to prevent her from liquidating any more of our assets. It was a tense few days, waiting, hopping, feeling like I was walking on a knife's edge. Meanwhile, Emily was still acting like everything was fine, acting innocent, trying to spin her lies harder. She'd call me paranoid, possessive, and accuse me of trying to ruin her life just because I was asking questions. But I wasn't backing down. I knew I had the evidence, and I knew I had to stay focused. I also started digging into her background more, who she was talking to, where she was going, and whether she had any other hidden bank accounts or assets. The lawyer helped me draft some subpoenas, and we even hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her. I felt like I was fighting a war I couldn't see the end of. One afternoon, I got a call from the investigator. Turns out, Emily had been meeting with a lawyer, someone who I later found out was involved in shady real estate deals. She was trying to push through a claim of sole ownership of the house, claiming I abandoned her and the kids. That was a lie, of course. I was always there, always working, always trying to make things better. But she was spinning her web of lies so thick, I wondered if anyone outside our circle would believe her. That was the moment I realized how deep her deception went. She had forged my signature to sell our family home, our biggest asset, and was trying to claim it all for herself. She even had the audacity to start a new bank account under her name, separate from ours, with some of the money from the house sale. I saw everything in the court documents, her attempt to cut me out completely, to rewrite our history and claim the future she wanted. I felt a mix of anger and helplessness. How could she do this? How could she lie, cheat, steal, and manipulate her way through our entire life? I'd trusted her, loved her, built a life with her. And now I was fighting to keep what was rightfully mine, to stop her from destroying everything. I knew I had to be smarter, more strategic. I couldn't just storm in and accuse her. I had to let the law do its job, gather more proof, and stay one step ahead. In the meantime, she kept up her act, pretending to be the victim, crying, begging, claiming she was doing this for us, that she was trying to save the family from my supposed paranoia. It was so infuriating. She was the one who betrayed me, who lied to my face, who sold our house behind my back. And yet, she still had the nerve to play the victim. The kids didn't fully understand what was happening, but I saw the confusion in their eyes. I tried to shield them as much as I could, but I knew this mess was going to leave scars. I felt helpless yet determined. I couldn't let her win, couldn't let her walk away with everything she stole, our house, our savings, our reputation. I promised myself I'd fight until I got justice, even if it meant losing everything else in the process. I was already feeling like I'd lost my marriage, my trust, and part of my sanity, but I refused to lose my rights or my dignity. The court hearings came faster than I expected, and I was ready, at least I thought I was. Emily's lawyer tried every trick in the book, accusing me of abandonment, claiming I was an absentee husband, that I had no right to interfere with her personal decisions. She played the victim beautifully, crying in court, acting hurt, pretending she was just trying to protect her family from my paranoia. It was disgusting to watch her spin her web of lies, but I stayed calm. I had the evidence, and I knew her tactics. When the judge finally asked for my side, I laid it all out: her affair with Jake, the forged signature, the sale of the house, the bank account she tried to hide. I was meticulous, factual, and clear. I explained how she had manipulated the situation, how she'd taken our life savings, and how she was trying to claim sole ownership of the house, our house. I emphasized that I never abandoned her or the kids, and that I only wanted what was legally mine. It was a long, exhausting session, but I could see the judge was taking me seriously. The turning point came when the judge ordered an immediate freeze on any further sale or transfer of our property and assets. The court also appointed an independent appraiser to evaluate the house and the money involved. I felt a flicker of relief. At least temporarily, I had some protection. But I knew Emily wouldn't give up easily. She was already scheming, I could tell. Her eyes darted around the courtroom, calculating her next move. Meanwhile, I started working even more closely with my lawyer, preparing for the next phase. We hired a forensic accountant to dig into Emily's finances, trying to track every penny, every hidden account. I was determined to get to the bottom of how much she had stolen and how deep her deception went. I also started looking into ways to claim back the house, either through the courts or some other legal process. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything she'd taken from us. But Emily wasn't just sitting still. Behind the scenes, she was reaching out to old friends, trying to gather support, spinning stories about how I was controlling and abusive. She even started accusing me of trying to ruin her reputation, which was laughable considering everything she'd done. Still, it was clear she was trying to turn the public opinion against me, to paint herself as the victim. That's the kind of person she was, bitchy, manipulative, and willing to lie her way out of anything. One day, I found out she'd been secretly meeting with the lawyer I'd hired to investigate her. Turns out, she was trying to find a way to get around the court orders, to sell the house illegally, or to hide more money. I felt a mixture of rage and despair. How could she be so reckless? So determined to destroy what little was left of our life together? I knew I had to act fast. I contacted the lawyer and the private investigator again, and we intensified our efforts to catch her in the act if she tried anything. Throughout all this chaos, the worst part was seeing how Emily was trying to manipulate the kids. She, tell them I was mean and controlling, trying to turn them against me. I loved those kids more than anything, and it broke my heart to see her trying to poison their minds. I stayed quiet, trying to be the better man, knowing that sooner or later the truth would come out. I just had to hold on long enough. Every day felt like a battle. My emotions swung from hope to despair, from anger to numbness. I kept telling myself I'd get through it, that justice would prevail. I was tired, exhausted from the mental strain, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I was determined to fight for what was rightfully mine, my house, my money, my reputation, and to make her face the consequences of her betrayal. I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot, but I was ready for whatever was coming next. The months that followed were the most intense of my life. Every day seemed to bring a new complication or surprise. Emily kept up her act, crying, pleading, insisting she was the victim, while secretly trying to find loopholes or ways to slip past the court orders. Meanwhile, I was knee-deep in legal battles, forensic reports, and trying to keep my sanity intact. One afternoon, I received a call from my lawyer. The appraisal of the house had been completed, and it was worth more than we initially thought, closer to $400, $0. That was a shock, but a good one. It meant I could potentially recover more of what she'd stolen, or at least get a fair value for the property. But the real problem was that Emily was still fighting tooth and nail to claim sole ownership. She filed a counterclaim, arguing that I had abandoned her and the kids, and that she deserved full rights to the house. That's when I decided I had to go beyond just legal battles. I started digging into her past, her financial history, her social media, and even her relationships outside of us. I wanted to understand what drove her to this point. What made her betray everything we built? I found she'd been secretly talking to a few more people, some shady real estate agents, some old acquaintances who seemed to have their own agendas. I also discovered she'd been laundering some of the money through a series of shell accounts, trying to hide her tracks. The most shocking discovery came when I uncovered a hidden email account she'd set up, which she used to communicate with the lawyer, someone I later found out was involved in illegal real estate deals. She'd been planning to sell the house illegally, or at least try to transfer ownership without court approval. I felt sick. She was willing to go to any length to keep the money and erase me from her life. At this point, I knew I had to be even more strategic. I met with my lawyer and the private investigator, and we devised a plan to catch her in the act if she tried to do anything illegal again. I also arranged for a court-appointed monitor to oversee any further transactions involving the house or her accounts. I couldn't trust her anymore. She'd lied, cheated, forged my signature, and now she was trying to cheat the system. Throughout all this, I was battling my own emotions. I was angry, betrayed, and exhausted. Every day I woke up feeling like I was fighting a losing battle, yet I couldn't give up. I loved those kids, and I was determined to protect what was left of my family's legacy. I kept telling myself I had to stay strong, stay focused, and let the law do its job. But inside, I was also grieving the woman I thought I knew and the life we'd built that was now shattered beyond repair. One night, I sat alone in the dark, scrolling through all the evidence, trying to find some sense of closure. I realized that Emily's bitchy, manipulative side was her way of controlling everything, from her lies to her money, and I was just a pawn in her game. She was so good at pretending to be the victim, but I knew better now. I'd uncovered her dirty secrets, and I was determined to make her pay for everything she'd done. The worst part was knowing that even if I won everything in court, I'd never get back the trust or the love I'd lost. Still, I owed it to myself and to my kids to fight for what was rightfully ours. The final court hearing was the culmination of everything I'd been fighting for over the past months. By then, I had all the evidence laid out: her affair with Jake, the forged signature, the illegal attempt to sell the house, the hidden accounts, everything. Emily's lawyer tried every distraction, every manipulation, but I was ready. The judge listened carefully, reviewing the documentation, the testimonies, and the evidence I presented. When the judge finally made the ruling, it was a relief mixed with a deep sense of exhaustion. The court declared that Emily had committed fraud by forging my signature and illegally selling the house. The sale was invalidated, and I was awarded full ownership of the property. The court also ordered her to pay restitution for the amount she had stolen and to cover the legal costs. Most importantly, Emily was barred from any further claims to the house or our assets, and the court appointed an independent trustee to oversee the division of our estate. Hearing that verdict was a strange mix of victory and heartbreak. Yes, I got the house back, and yes, I was finally free from her manipulations. But I also knew that the woman I loved, Emily, was gone for good. I saw her face in court, her jaw clenched, her bitchy smirk replaced with a look of defeat. She had lost everything she'd tried to steal, and I couldn't help feeling a bitter taste of satisfaction, mixed with sadness. In the aftermath, I focused on rebuilding what I could. The house needed repairs, and I had to deal with the emotional fallout, especially with the kids. I made sure they understood that I loved them, that I was there for them, and that everything was going to be okay, even if it took time. Emily moved out shortly after the ruling, trying to spin her story to friends and family, but the truth was out now. No more lies, no more manipulations. I also filed for divorce, and the process was straightforward given everything that had happened. I didn't want her in my life anymore, not after everything she'd put me through. I realized I'd spent so much time trusting her, believing in the marriage, that I'd overlooked how manipulative she could be. Lesson learned: never ignore the signs of a bitchy, selfish woman capable of lying and betrayal on the scale. Looking back, I can honestly say I'm still processing everything. It's been a brutal ride, but I'm stronger now. I've learned that sometimes, even the most seemingly perfect life can hide a deep betrayal. You have to stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and never let anyone steal what's yours: your time, your money, your family. I also learned that justice might take time, but it's worth fighting for, even when it seems hopeless. Most importantly, I've come to realize that betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you resilience. I've picked up the pieces of my shattered trust and am slowly rebuilding my life, more cautious, more guarded, but also more aware. I hope sharing this story helps anyone out there who's going through something similar. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the most unexpected places. But no matter how deep the hurt, you have the strength to fight back, to reclaim what's yours, and to find a way forward.